Hello everyone. Today let's solve the problem number 678, valid parenthesis string. So let's see what the question states here. So we are given a string s containing only this one, left parenthesis and the right parenthesis, or opening and the closing parenthesis, this one, right, opening as well as the closing parenthesis, and also star. So see here, this one, star symbol, and also the star here. So we have to determine if s can be a valid parenthesis string. So what are the rules? Let's see. For every this one, just give me a second here, 1 second. For every closing parenthesis, we must match a previous opening parenthesis, right? So for every closing parenthesis, this one, we must match a previous opening parenthesis, and also opening parenthesis must come before its this one, closing parenthesis, right? So this is closing parenthesis, opening parenthesis must come before its closing parenthesis, and star can be this star, whatever they have given, this one, right? So this can be either opening parenthesis or the closing parenthesis, or it may be empty as well, or it might be empty as well. So star can be opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis, or it may be empty as well. So we have to return true if there exists an interpretation of star that makes s valid, otherwise we have to return false, right? So we have to return true if there exists an interpretation of star that makes s valid, otherwise we have to return false, right? So let's see the same. Let's come to the first example here. So we have s, this one, see here, this one opening parenthesis and one closing parenthesis. Quite obviously this is true. So for this we can consider one opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis, and opening parenthesis comes before the closing, and this one we can treat this one as empty, star, right? So this is also true, right? For this one, see here, we have opening parenthesis and we have this one, star we can consider another opening parenthesis, right? So we have closing and closing parenthesis, two opening and two closing parenthesis, so this will be true as well. Right? So they have given us wonderful examples for the sake of understanding, right? So this is fine. If it is not possible, then we have to return false, right? So this is fine. So this is the question, right? So let's consider first example and let's see the approach, right? So just give me a second here, 1 second. Yeah, now first thing I want to tell you here is we will be going with a greedy approach. So we'll be going with a greedy approach, right? So we will be making use of the two counters, one is low and another one is high. Again, so we will be making use of two counters, one is low and another one is high here, that tracks the minimum and maximum that is possible. So this tracks minimum and this tracks maximum, right? So don't get confused here. So we'll be making use of two counters, low and high, that tracks the minimum and maximum that is possible number of unmatched, this one, what do we call, opening parenthesis, after reading each character, right? So first we will be considering this example, man, input s equals this one, output that we need to get here is true, right? So we will start with low equals 0 and high equals 0. First what we will do, we'll start with low equals 0 and high equals 0. This is fine. Now first we will read this opening parenthesis. We have opening parenthesis within the string, right? So this one we will be reading opening parenthesis, and low will be set to 1. So this is minimum, right? So if you we have to count it basically, and high will be 1 as well. So maximum also increases here, right? So low will be, initially low will be 0 and high will be 0 as well. We will be counting this opening parenthesis first. So this is just a string, so this one will be going with low equals 1 and high also increases here, high will be 1. So we have to read, next we have to read this one, closing parenthesis, right? So we have to read the closing parenthesis now. So low becomes 0 and high also decreases here, high becomes 0 as well, right? So minimum decreases as well as the maximum also decreases. Now we'll go with the end basically, right? So low will be equivalent to the 0, right? There exists an assignment making this one as balance. So what we will do, low is 0 and high is 0, and there exists an assignment making it balance. So what we will do, we will return true in this case. So we will return true in this case, right? So the output that we got here is true, which is equivalent to the output that they have mentioned for the example 1 within the question. So what is the idea here is, if when we find the opening parenthesis, we will increase the this one, we will increment low as well as we will increment high, right? So that's what we will do. When we find this one opening parenthesis, we will increment low and high. When we find the closing parenthesis, we will decrement low and we will decrement high. This is fine. So what is star here? We will treat this one low, will decrement the low minus minus, right? So we will treat as this one, what do we call, closing parenthesis, and high plus plus is treated as the opening parenthesis, right? So we will clamp low equals max of low comma 0, because we cannot have the negative guaranteed opens, right? So that is the reason we'll be going with, or we'll be clamping low equals max of low comma 0, right? So if high is less than 0 at any point, too many this one, if it contains too many this one, what do we call, closing parenthesis, then we have to return false in this case, right? So this is how we will be making use of the greedy approach basically. So the output that we got here is true, and that matches the output that they have given for the example 1 within the question. So this is very simple. This is it about the approach, and as we are completely familiar with the approach, so let's do one thing. Let's quickly discuss the complexities part. So what will be the time complexity here? The time complexity would be big of n, and why it is big of n? Because we are going with a greedy, and we'll be going with a single pass over the string of length n. We know this. And what will be the space complexity here? Space complexity would be big of 1, because we'll be going with only a few integer counters that are used, right? So space complexity would be 1 here. So the time complexity would be big of n, and the space complexity would be big of 1 for the code that we'll be writing in the future, right? So this is fine. The time complexity and the space complexity for the code that we'll be writing in the future would be big of n and big of 1 respectively. Now as we are completely familiar with the approach and the complexities, let's start writing the code, right? So initially let's go with the minimum possible number of unmatched opening parenthesis as well as the close, right? So in simple terms, I'll assign low to 0 and high to 0 as well. This is fine. Now let's go with the iteration part here. So we have to iterate through all the characters, right? So this one will be and I equals 0, length of the string I plus plus. So this is fine. Now within the iteration, so first we have to go with the current character. So I'll just go char c equals s dot char ed. So this one I. This is fine. Now let's write the simple condition. If it is the left parenthesis, then we have to go with the minimum open parenthesis and the this one maximum open parenthesis, meaning we have to increment minimum as well as the maximum open parenthesis if it is a left parenthesis, right? So that's what we discussed in the approach as well. So if character is opening parenthesis, then what we need to do, so this one will be low plus plus high plus plus as well. This is fine. Next I'll just go with else if here c equals this one closing parenthesis. So this one, what I'll do, I'll just decrement low and decrement the high as well. So this is also fine, I believe. So next, else what I'll do, we will be treating star as closing parenthesis for the minimum case, or we'll be treating the star as this one opening parenthesis for the maximum case. So I'll just go with low minus minus high plus plus. This we can write it in this in this way. Next, let's do one thing. Let me go with one more if condition here, right? So if too many this also we have discussed in the approach, if too many closing parenthesis encountered, then it is impossible, then there will be no valid this one interpretation, so we have to return false, right? At the last I have said this one. So this one has to be if this one high is less than 0, then we have to return false. This is fine. Yep, we are done with this part almost. So also we have to ensure the minimum doesn't go negative, right? So accordingly with the question, so let's go with the empty interpretation of star that basically fixes it, right? So I can just write it on this way. If low less than 0, then let me initialize, or let me assign low to 0. Finally what we need to do here, So if it is valid, meaning it will be valid if we can have 0 unmatched, this one opening parenthesis at the end, low has to be 0, right? So that's what I said, the approach as well. So same thing we are implementing in the form of code, right? So we have to return, we have to check whether low is 0 at the end. So this is fine, this is it for the code. So let me format the code once and let me hit the run button. So sample test cases are getting passed, so let me hit the submit button quickly, man. So here you can clearly see all the test cases are getting passed, means the code works absolutely correct in this case, right? So I hope the solution part is completely clear along with the approach and the complexities, right? So for now this is it. Thanks for watching, guys.